you know what? I don't know if I should tell you this. Hello, by the way. I hope you've had a nice couple of weeks. As you can tell, I'm quite bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It won't last, but I have quite high energy levels at the moment. I think I was going to do it. I wrote a lot while I was away. The reason why I'm in quite a good mood, for those of you who care, is because I think my book will actually be finished almost on time. So I give it another few days, and hopefully it'll be champagne corks popping all round. But it's called How They Broke Britain, right? And it explains the madness of the last few years. Well, going back decades, but really the last few years. And I'm toying with the idea of doing a postscript. So have a look around, look at everything they've broken, everything they've set fire to, everything they've screwed up. Did you see the front page of the Mail yesterday? Amazing story about a desperate, despicable plot by those pesky European unions to start controlling their borders. That they're going to insist on checks and examinations before we can go there. As if, that isn't what was actually negotiated by David Frost and Boris Johnson. But anyway, everywhere you went, the economy, whatever it is, absolute carnage. What a mess. What a bunch of clowns. And that's what the book's about. And I'm thinking of doing a 2-line postscript. So you get to the end where it says the end, and then you turn the page. Should I tell you this? I don't know. Should I tell you? I mean, you don't think I should tell you this? Because, I'm there. It's going to sound weird if I don't now, isn't it? After building it up in this way. And I think the postscript needs to be, I don't want to alarm you, but all of the people I've just written about, they're now having essentially broken Britain, they're now turning their attention to climate change. The same people, the same forces, the same think tanks, the same journalists, the same newspapers, the same proprietors, the same vested interests, the same plutocrats. They're now determined, the same politicians. They're now dedicating all of their energy to persuading the population that governments shouldn't be doing anything with regard to net zero or with regard to minimising climate change impact or at least trying to achieve some sort of equilibrium. It's the same people. I sometimes look at this stuff and think, am I the one that's gone bonkers? Because it's the same people. They've sold you this nonsense. And now they're turning their attention, having broken a country, they now want to essentially turn their nefarious attentions to an entire planet. And you think it's the same blooming people. So that might be the postscript, although I probably won't use the word blooming. So should we do that? Listen, I was in Greece for a fortnight. I flew there. I'm conscious of the fact that we should all be going everywhere by pedalo these days in order to be able to retain the right to express any concerns whatsoever about climate change. I think, once a year on a plane is our limit at the moment, I think. Even that's probably too much, but that's not what the conversation is going to be about today. The conversation is going to be about the government's decision to drill in the North Sea. And I'd like to have a thoughtful conversation. We may do low traffic networks, low traffic neighbourhoods at 11 or possibly 12 or maybe never. What intrigues me about this is the grey area. So Ed Miliband can talk about a culture war on climate to make up for 13 years of failed Tory energy policy. But when Rishi Sunak talks about energy security, I do find myself nodding along. I do find myself thinking I'd rather that we weren't dependent on, for example, Vladimir Putin or Saudi Arabia or other Gulf states. I'd rather that we did actually have a little bit more energy security of our own. And then another voice pops up in my... Well played, Tony. Tony says, welcome back, James. Those low traffic neighbourhoods are just a load of bollards. Another voice pops up in my head that says, yes, well, you can be energy secure, you can improve or you can enhance energy security without going after more fossil fuels. And that's where there is genuine clear blue water between Labour and the Conservatives on this. The 13 years, if you like, of failed Tory energy policy, as Ed Miliband puts it, you could be improving energy security by doing more sustainable energy, couldn't you? So I've got a genuine question here. It's not a particularly sophisticated question. It's the hardy perennial of radio phone-in questions. It's what do you think about this? Because the reason I mentioned that I was in Greece was because the fires were spectacular. and awful. Now, Greece is no stranger to forest fires. They often happen, and I saw some speculation or possibly even reports, forgive me, I was on holiday, that some of them may have been started by arsonists, which some very stupid people, and I say that with great affection, some very stupid people take that as evidence that the climate change argument is being exaggerated. The point that, if you'd allow me to explain very briefly for anyone who is capable of understanding the simplest concepts but has somehow signed up to the it was arson argument, the point is that if I set fire to that little bit of scrub there, that little tree, right? I set fire to that little tree there, then in a world that hasn't been changed by climate change, the fire would not spread at a rate of knots through tinder-dry foliage and forests that have received less rain than they've received in generations. That's the point. It doesn't really matter how it starts. It's what happens to the spark. Where does the spark go? Does the spark turn into acres and acres and acres of immolation and burning, or does it peter out